owning a Formula One team, having your own supercar factory, funding your son to become a professional driver, buy an entire farm just to secure exclusive access to some of the best meat in the world, and receiving a steak flown in the same day to the United States even while living in Europe. The beginning of it all. These are just some of the extravagances of Lawrence Stroll, the billionaire owner of the Aston Martin Formula One team. But how did he get so rich? How can he live such a luxurious life? In this video, you will learn about the story of Lawrence Stroll and how he manages to sustain one of the most enviable lifestyles in the world of speed. Known worldwide by the surname Stroll, Lawrence was actually born with a different name, Lawrence Sheldon Strulovich, on July 11, 1959, in Montreal, Canada. His entry into business began by following in the footsteps of his father, Leo Strulovich, who represented European fashion brands in Canada. At just 17, Lawrence became the representative for the Pierre Cardin brand, taking over the exclusive license that had previously belonged to his father. At the time, the brand's catalog included women's and children's clothing. This was the businessman's main activity for 15 years until he met designer Ralph Lauren at a casual encounter. The designer was planning to expand his brand's presence in the European market, where he still faced challenges in growing. Lawrence saw an opportunity to join the designer in representing the brand in Europe, similar to what he was already doing with Pierre Cardin, but this time with the flow going from Europe to America. However, Stroll knew he needed to set up a textile structure in Europe to meet Ralph Lauren's expectations and to be able to distribute the designer's shirts to as many retail outlets as possible. Out of this necessity, he partnered with Silas Cho, a Hong Kong businessman with international expertise in the production and distribution of branded clothing. Cho became a strategic partner to produce the clothing on a large scale and at a much lower cost, thanks to the much more affordable labor in Hong Kong compared to the United States or Canada. Additionally, Cho could help Stroll bring the clothing to the European market. The partnership with Cho was so interesting and successful that a few years after the operation involving Ralph Lauren, which earned him tens of millions of dollars, the two decided to start Sportswear Holdings Limited, a holding company created to address another issue. This time, another famous designer sought out the duo, Tommy Hilfiger. In 1989, the American brand Tommy Hilfiger was in financial trouble and needed a cash injection to survive. Upon learning of the duo's work with Ralph Lauren, the designer himself sought their help. This encounter led to what became known as the Shark Deal, where Stroll and Cho saved Tommy Hilfiger in exchange for 50% of the company, leaving the founder with only 22.5% and the rest for the CEO. With the deal sealed, Tommy Hilfiger began to significantly expand its product range, with a focus primarily on casual wear, a niche that was booming at the time. The clothing was produced by Chow Structure, while Stroll was responsible for the brand's marketing. Together, they brought their credentials to the business. Today, it's common to talk about branded clothing production in Asian countries, but at the time, Chow Structure enabled Tommy Hilfiger to greatly increase its profit margins simply by transferring production to Asia. Additionally, if the product was less expensive to produce, the perception of value and, subsequently, the price of Tommy Hilfiger products also increased. This was further bolstered by massive promotion efforts spearheaded by Stroll, which ensured that artists and celebrities wore Tommy Hilfiger clothes. For example, the rapper Snoop Dogg, who was topping music charts, appeared on the American TV show Saturday Night Live in 1994 wearing a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, making young people across the United States want to own the clothes of their idols, and of course, willing to pay a hefty price for them. As a result, the company multiplied this strategy through various artists who, influenced by the brand or by their own desire, wore and showcased Tommy Hilfiger in all media. This led to the brand being increasingly perceived as a luxury label and created a profitable machine for Stroll and Cho. The success translated into clear numbers. In 1989, when they bought the brand, Tommy Hilfiger was selling $25 million a year. By 2000, it was selling $2 billion annually. It is estimated that the duo invested $35 million in 1989, and the investment was extremely lucrative, especially because in 2010, Tommy Hilfiger was sold to PVH Group for $3 billion. But they didn't bet on just one horse. 7 years before selling Tommy Hilfiger, Stroll and Cho also invested in a promising brand, Michael Kors. At the time, the duo acquired 85% of the brand in a deal worth $85 million. Once again, they applied their successful formula. And even though the company has since focused more on handbags and clothing, the strategy worked very well. The pieces were seen on celebrities like Angelina Jolie, Brooke Shields, and even former First Lady Michelle Obama. Besides investing in cost reduction and increasing the product's perceived value, Michael Kors was also very well capitalized during the 2008 financial crisis, when it took advantage of competitor slowdowns to open new stores around the world, spreading its products to all corners of the globe. The success was so overwhelming that in 2011, Michael Kors went public on the stock market with a total valuation of $3.6 billion. A dramatic increase from just 8 years earlier when the company was valued at $100 million. This marked the beginning of even greater financial gains, putting billions in the pockets of Cho and Lawrence Stroll. The Canadian also invested in the jewelry chains that make up the Asprey and Garrett Group, diversifying his investments. With the fortune he had built over the years, Stroll began to amass not only successful businesses, but also extravagant acquisitions. First, he bought his own racetrack, the Mont-Tremblant Circuit in Quebec, Canada, for $625 million. Additionally, he acquired airplanes and properties of all kinds, including a farm in the United States solely to supply him with high-quality beef. The meat is prepared and flown to him wherever he is, whenever he wants, as reported by racing driver Tony Kanaan. Not too shabby, right? Simultaneously, he also heavily invested in his son Lance Stroll's racing career, initially spending $10 million on the junior racing team Prema, followed by $35 million in sponsorships for the Williams Formula One team, which granted Lance a seat. Not stopping there, in 2018, Stroll decided to buy the financially troubled Force India Formula One team. The billionaire invested a total of $118 million, after which the team was renamed Racing Point, and his son Lance became one of its drivers. However, Lawrence Stroll's largest single investment came shortly afterward. In early 2020, he led an investment group that acquired 16.7% of the struggling luxury car manufacturer Aston Martin Lagonda, a brand globally recognized as the maker of James Bond's cars. The brand had been unable to convert its legacy into solid financial results and needed a new direction if it wanted to continue appearing in future Bond films. A few months later, the investment group increased its stake to 25%, and Lawrence himself became the CEO of the car manufacturer. Alongside him, the head of the Mercedes Formula One team, Toto Wolff, and Swiss magnate Ernesto Bertarelli also joined the project with 4.8% and 3.4%, respectively. Since then, Stroll has initiated a restructuring of Aston Martin, which also involved a change in its ownership structure. A total of £318 million was injected into the company from various sources. And with this money, there was a massive investment in improving the company's factories and hiring 300 new employees. In 2021, Daimler Group, the owner of Mercedes-Benz, increased its stake in the carmaker from 2.6% to 20%. And with this increase, a technology supply agreement was reached for Aston Martin for the following years, theoretically leading to better cars and lower costs for the company in research and development. The most impactful action to date came that same year. The car manufacturer announced its return to Formula One as a full team. Stroll's Racing Point team was renamed Aston Martin. marking the carmaker's return to the sport under its own brand after 60 years. A proud moment for fans of the brand, which had achieved great recognition in the 1960s for its performance in the category. A few years earlier, before the acquisition, the carmaker had a partnership with the Red Bull racing team. But this was not a branded team like now, but rather an advertising agreement for brand exposure. The team's driver lineup now included, of course, Lance Stroll, Lawrence's son, and three-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, who, in addition to joining the team, also bought a stake in Aston Martin. Vettel stayed with the team for 2 years and was replaced by two-time champion Fernando Alonso, who is still with Aston Martin today. In 2022, the Formula One team signed a deal with Aramco, the largest oil company and one of the biggest companies in the world. The goal of Aston Martin's efforts in Formula One is to promote the automaker's brand, as well as to make the technology produced in the team applicable to its cars for the streets. From this perspective, the team has invested even more in new technologies and in the construction of its new factory, which is expected to be inaugurated in 2024 and will cost $240 million. In parallel, there is still the construction of a state-of-the-art wind tunnel that will cost around $180 million. From an objective point of view, these investments are already paying off. In the first quarter of 2023, Aston Martin achieved its best financial results since going public, with 6,400 cars delivered worldwide, an increase of 134% compared to the same period the previous year. The success is a reflection of investments in new models, better production techniques, and improved technology, clearly related to the developments seen in Formula One. The goal now is to elevate the brand and make it a rival to Ferrari, a goal that Stroll has even mentioned in interviews. Lawrence Stroll has chosen his battles well, always emerging victorious and now reaping the fruits of his latest investment. But whether Aston Martin will one day be able to compete head-to-head with Ferrari and Lamborghini remains a question only the future will answer. Do you believe that Aston Martin will one day be able to surpass Ferrari? Leave your opinion here in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time,